Now we're going to talk about something similar to private Google Access, but a little bit different, and that's Private Service Connect. This could show up on the exam. A Private Service Connect, or PSC, is designed to create private internal connections between services within your VPC, but it's also flexible enough to connect to services outside of your VPC as well, which is cool. Let's look at the diagram again to see how this setup works. On the left side, we have a Cloud Run instance within a private subnet in VPC network A. This is just an example service that I'm using. It doesn't only work with Cloud Run. But since it is configured with an internal IP, it doesn't have a direct route to external services. This is where PSC, or Private Service Connect, comes into play. The PSC endpoint in our VPC enables Cloud Run to securely connect to other Google Cloud services like Composer or Cloud SQL without needing public IPs or going over the public internet. And finally, since PSC can also be extended to connect with services outside of Google Cloud, such as third-party APIs, this means that Cloud Run, in this case, could use PSC to securely reach these third-party APIs while staying within the private network environment. So with Private Service Connect, you can securely connect Cloud Run to internal GCP services and external services, at least certain third-party APIs that are enabled for this feature, all without the need for public IPs, ensuring a private internal connection when you need it in these use cases. Let's look a little bit more closely at an example use case for Private Service Connect, or PSC, in action. In this scenario, PSC will enable secure communication between a Cloud Function and a Cloud Composer environment, which is hosted in a private subnet within a VPC. So let's look at how the workflow operates. A new file is uploaded to cloud storage. This upload triggers a notification to the Cloud Function. This should be pretty familiar. We've looked at this. This is starting to look like the beginning of a use case that we looked at in the cloud storage section and also the Cloud Composer section. This upload triggers a notification to the Cloud Function, and then the Cloud Function, which is not in any VPC, receives this trigger and needs to communicate with Cloud Composer to process the file. And again, the Cloud Composer environment is hosted in a private subnet within a VPC. So because Composer is in this private subnet without internet access, the Cloud Function can't connect directly. This is where Private Service Connect comes in. With PSC, the Cloud Function establishes a secure private connection to Cloud Composer through a PSC endpoint in the VPC. And so this allows the Cloud Function to use the Airflow REST API over the private connection to trigger the specific DAG in Cloud Composer that would process the file that was uploaded. So this is how this would work if the Composer environment was in a private subnet within a VPC. We saw the general use case previously in other sections, but now this has the added component of the Composer environment being in a private subnet in a VPC. This ensures that all the communication remains internal with no need for public IPs or internet access. The PSC endpoint is critical in this architecture because it allows the Cloud Function to access Composer securely and privately while keeping the environment isolated from the public internet. So you might be wondering, okay, we just heard about private Google Access. We just heard about Private Service Connect. They have something in common around, enabling you to connect with Google services or APIs without public IPs. What's the difference between them? Yes, they enhance network security. Yes, they connect connectivity within GCP, but they have distinct purposes. Private Google Access is designed for outbound access from a private subnet to Google APIs. This means that if you have a VM or a service with only internal IP addresses in a private subnet, Private Google Access allows it to reach Google APIs securely without needing a public IP. However, private Google Access is one directional. It doesn't provide a way to handle inbound connectivity between services. This is where Private Service Connect comes in. Private Service Connect focuses on private internal communication between services. So it creates a private internal connection that allows one service to reach another securely without traversing the public internet. And so unlike private Google Access, Private Service Connect is not limited to just outbound access to Google APIs. It allows for private connectivity between services, both within the same VPC and across VPCs. So private Google Access enables secure outbound connections to Google APIs from private subnets, while Private Service Connect ensures private internal communication between services, providing the inbound connectivity that private Google Access doesn't have. That's it on Private Service Connect.